Good evening. It's evening when I'm recording this in any case. These kind of mini lectures that I give are not fancy. All they are some slides that I try to go through and give more information than the written material provides you, and to try to help clarify some matters. Please note that if anything comes to mind that you don't understand, please reach out and let me know, and then I can address that back to the whole class. Because if one person has a question, almost everyone does. So, this very brief slideshow is about the assignment prompt for the argument analysis. My recommendation is that you have a copy of this assignment in front of you so that you can follow along in the assignment with this slideshow. If you haven't read it already, I would encourage you to read it and then come back to this. So I just want to talk about how to approach the assignment. So, oops, I think I went past too many. Okay, what is an argument? This is slide 2. It may seem obvious to you what an argument is, but I'm not sure it always is. So if you can hear noises in the background, that's my dog. I use an Aristotelian understanding of argument. And Aristotle says that in order to be an argument, an issue has to be debatable. I mean, on one level, that just sounds really simplistic. But there are definitely things about which we don't really debate. So I remember years ago when I was teaching a persuasive writing course, a student said that he wanted to argue that adults should not be able to have sex with children. And I said to him, this is not a debatable issue. This is a fundamental principle of our culture. No one questions that, at least not in public settings, and not if they want their reputations to remain intact, because it is a crime against children to harm them in that way. So if people are not actually debating the issue, then there's no point in having the argument. Sometimes we have debated things and then they are no longer something that we're discussing. So until Trump's presidency, Roe v. Wade was seen as settled law. And at that time, I would tell students debating abortion really isn't very helpful. I mean, almost every argument that can be made has been made, etc. Well, Trump ushered in a new era and a new Supreme Court, and so it kind of put the issue back on the table again. So the issue has to be debatable. In addition, the issue belongs in the public square. I'm not interested in arguments that you might have with loved ones, parents, people you live with, roommates, whoever. Sure enough, I think those are probably arguments and debatable, but they're not public square. In other words, whatever we argue about for this assignment, it needs to be something that the community has a take on, has an interest in which case it needs to be something very specific and relevant to an immediate group of people. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone in class is going to be interested in your topic, but it would be odd to debate whether or not women should be able to wear dresses that showed their knees in the era that we live in. Within certain religious contexts, that might be a relevant thing to argue about. But in the public square, that's not really where that issue belongs. In addition, I think one test of an argument is whether or not you're open to being persuaded about this topic. Arguments in the Aristotelian sense have probable answers, not based on belief. So if you believe that abortion is murder and you use the Bible to make that argument, that isn't really an argument that's debatable in the public square. That is an argument based on your belief system and uses a holy text for support. It isn't probable, it is final. You've decided on that. So, probable answers are things that we are currently in the process of deciding as a culture. Okay. What is analysis? So, the first thing you're going to need to do is find an argument, and it has to meet those criteria I just described. Now, you're going to come in and analyze that argument. You will need to establish criteria, use rhetorical keywords, and understand the concept of screens. So, in order to analyze anything, we need criteria. We cannot simply, out of the blue, for instance, say that a piece of writing is good or bad. The only way that we can determine a piece of writing as being good or bad is by establishing criteria by which we're going to evaluate it. If we're going to analyze a grocery list, even something that simple needs criteria and it needs context. So one of the questions we might ask is, who is this grocery list for? If I'm making a grocery list for myself, there's one set of criteria. Did I remember everything for the recipe? If it's for my husband and I'm not going to be there, have I been clear about the product that I want, even if he might be unfamiliar with the product? So in order to analyze, we've got to have criteria. That criteria should be keywords that are found in the Gerard Hauser chapters that you are being assigned for the class, and they're rhetorical concepts. We will start discussing those rhetorical concepts, and you will need to choose one or two, maximally three, of these rhetorical concepts to analyze an argument with. And then one thing I want you to know is that analysis focuses on some aspects of an argument and screens out others. So you can't possibly analyze every aspect of an argument. Anytime you're standing one place, it means you're not standing another place. And these keywords help us know where you're standing and help us understand why you're not looking at some parts of the assignment. So analysis brings some things to the surface and pushes some things into the background. How do you establish criteria? You need to read chapters 1 and 3 in Hauser, and you need to use the argument analysis worksheet that I gave you. I strongly recommend that you fill it out completely and that you use it to read the text. We need to probably discuss what some of the words and ideas mean, and some of the lectures that I provided in Blackboard will help you do that. What is the purpose of this paper? The purpose of this paper is for you to determine the effectiveness of the argument you've chosen to analyze. You will do that by explaining the how of the argument. In addition, your evidence for making this claim will come from the argument itself. And you will use background information from other sources to support our understanding of what's going on. So, if you were arguing that something is ineffective because it got facts wrong, for instance, you're going to have to go out and show me what those facts are that the argument got wrong. I want to point out one other thing in terms of an argument, and it's something I probably should have said at the earlier slide, but keep in mind that Hauser's definition of an argument is a rhetorical event. And because he uses that concept, he allows us to think about things such as protests and speeches to be the things that we analyze and not just written text. If you have any doubt about what you've chosen to analyze, run it by me. I'd be glad to give you my opinion. Someone in the, I guess, survey, or maybe in an email, I don't remember which, said that they were insecure about how they'd be evaluated. At the bottom of that assignment sheet, there is a list of what I hope you will achieve. And that is my rubric. So you will be evaluated on your ability to locate an argument to analyze, that you use rhetorical concepts to analyze. And I might add there that you explain what those rhetorical concepts mean. And third, that you use the argument itself as evidence of its success or failure. And finally, that you provide support or research to support the analysis. That support and research is primarily the background information, giving us the context of the argument. I've given you some other requirements. So I've given you the number of words it should be. Keep in mind that I'm not going to be busy counting words. Please don't just add words to your paper. I really emphasize revision, and with revision, your paper will get longer. So I'm not worried about that at all. In terms of the style sheet that you use, I'm going to let you use whatever style manual your discipline chooses. So if you use APA, you're welcome to use APA. If you use MLA, you can use MLA. If you use the Chicago Manual of Style, you can use that. Just use it consistently. Conventions and that sort of thing are not the main goals of writing these arguments. I'm more interested that you really develop analytical skills. One final thing is I want you to be aware that this class is pretty diverse in terms of majors. You all come from lots of different majors. So you need to be aware of that when you're speaking, or i.e. writing to each other, that you may need to explain some things from your own perspective. I hope this helps. If you have questions, you have my email, and I would be glad to answer them. Thank you very much.